When the ancient city of Mohenjo-daro was being excavated, the researchers were baffled by what they found there. Recent studies confirm that Mohenjo-daro was a really advanced city of its time, rivaling the ancient Egyptian civilization. By one estimation, more than 35,000 people lived there. But the really shocking thing is, archaeologists have found only 43 skeletons at the site. So where did the rest of the population go? And more importantly, why did they move? When you really visit and study the ancient site of Mohenjo-daro, you get the strange feeling that something happened there, something not good. Think about it. Out of the 35,000 people who lived there, we found only 43 skeletons, and that too, not in a good condition. It seems as if the city was evacuated just before something terrible was about to happen, but some decided to stay, or were left behind. The physical conditions of some objects and artifacts found there suggest an incredible story. The bricks and rocks of this site were found in a melted and vitrified state. When these samples were collected and were tested in labs, it was found that it could have only been possible if the area was subjected to a temperature of more than 15,000 degrees Celsius. But how can a primitive civilization generate so much heat and at such a large scale? In fact, there were no sign of any violent war or anything like that. So what really happened there? When we talk about some of the oldest civilizations in human history, the pictures of ancient Egypt or that of Mesopotamia come to our minds. But what researchers failed to see was that how much advanced the ancient cultures were in the Indian subcontinent. Just a century ago, such a mysterious civilization was discovered by pure chance. Its name is the Indus Valley civilization. Researchers now agree that it is the oldest civilization found in human history. It had spanned to a vast area in the northwest of present-day India, from the modern-day Afghanistan. There flourished many cities within this civilization, among which Mohenjo-daro was one. Actually, the remains of this dead city is located in the present-day Pakistan. The Archaeological Survey of India had complete access to this site before the partition of India, and an officer of the ASI accidentally discovered this forgotten city. When large-scale excavations began, researchers and archaeologists were baffled at what they saw there. It looked like a well-developed city with very advanced and sophisticated urbanization. Many artifacts were recovered from the site, but what intrigued the researchers were the tablets containing a mysterious and unknown script. No one had seen anything like it before. The writings are still available to this day, but sadly, we are still unable to decipher it. It is painful to think about how much precious information could be concealed in those tablets, but there is no way we can decode it. Then in the early 1920s, a British Indian archaeologist named David Davenport came up with an astounding explanation about this lost city of Mohenjo-daro. Davenport was also a Sanskrit scholar and was very learned in ancient Sanskrit texts. He was convinced that what is written in the ancient Sanskrit texts were real history and not just fictional stories. For example, many devastating and powerful weapons were mentioned in ancient texts, like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there were weapons like the Brahmastra and the Pashupatastra, which were capable of wiping out entire civilizations with the blink of an eye. The Mahabharata mentions many weapons which left catastrophic effects upon their victims. The authors of these texts wrote, when these weapons were used in great wars, the sky became bright as 1,000 suns shining together. The affected people died instantly, and those who survived had to endure great pain and burning. Their hairs and nails began to fall. To escape the unbearable burning, the soldiers had to throw themselves in rivers and lakes. What is more surprising is that these thousands of years old descriptions accurately describe nuclear detonations and their effects. So how did the ancient authors write about these weapons and their effects with so much accuracy if they didn't have access to any kind of advanced technology in those times? At first, it seems like a far-fetched idea, but could it be possible that there were technologically advanced civilizations in great antiquity, and the city of Mohenjo-daro was destroyed by a nuclear detonation? This is what Davenport suggested. He advocated that the ruins found at the Mohenjo-daro site was the result of a nuclear explosion. Additionally, when the first observed nuclear explosion happened under the Manhattan Project in the United States of America, some journalists asked the head of the team, Robert J. Oppenheimer, how he felt about successfully conducting the first nuclear detonation in history of mankind, and his cryptic reply was that it was the first nuclear detonation in the modern world, but certainly not the first one in human history. What did Oppenheimer mean when he said the first nuclear detonation in the modern world? You see, Oppenheimer was an avid reader of ancient Hindu texts, such as the Vedas and the Puranas. He even learnt Sanskrit so that he could read the texts in their original forms. And what we observe from Oppenheimer's statement is that he firmly believed there were nuclear explosions in the ancient history of mankind. But so far, the mainstream archaeologists have not accepted these explanations. They don't even consider the idea that any ancient civilization had access to advanced nuclear weapons. Some propose the theory of a violent war, which drove the natives to a different location, while others say it was a never-ending drought, which ended that civilization. But no one seems to know exactly what happened in that ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, some 5,000 years ago. So what do you think? Will we be ever able to solve the mystery of Mohenjo-Daro?